Hello. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking with today?
Ebunoluwa. My name actually, Ebunoluwa, Ebenezer Akinola of Pure Justice.
Okay. All right. Benalua. Is that right?
Ebunoluwa.
Ibanalua.
Yes.
Ibanalua.
In Nigeria, it means my gift from God.
Oh, okay. My gift
Sir.
from God. Wonderful. Thank you. Can you please share your thoughts about a person in jail because of an alleged crime that may or may not be true?
An alleged crime. Well, I do have a situation where I can actually explain. Well, it's hard to explain that one because it's family orientated. And I have a family member who was actually accused of murdering a child. He was put in a position where he was actually intimidated by the people who he was around to say that he was the one that did it. He actually didn't do it. He even called me. He told me the whole story prior to him being arrested. And he was like, man, you know, something happened with the baby. The baby passed away, but they saying I did it. And they saying if I just go ahead and say I did it, then, you know, they'll let me out. I saw him on Channel 13 News. He showed up on Channel 13 News as a child murderer. Yeah, because he confessed. Now later on, when he started telling me about it, he was like, "Man, the truth is, I had no other choice but to confess. They wasn't gonna let me out unless I confessed, unless I said this or unless I said that." I told him just wait, you know, wait on a lawyer, wait on a lawyer. He told me, "Man, all I have is a what do they call those attorneys? Public attorneys.
Court appointed.
Attorney. So the court appointed attorney offered him 45 years. They said if they were to take the case to court, he would have gotten 60 years. They told him if he would sign right now, they would give him 20 years.
Wow.
He waited inside. He signed for 18 years on a child murder that he did not commit. And no one's there to speak for him on his behalf.
Wow. So
Yeah, that's a
true story.
situation that I know about.
So I take it
I know many
your family
situations.
member is still in prison now today?
Oh yes, I have another young brother by the name of Andre who was accused of rape when he was 21. He's a church member of mine. We taught this young boy how to play the drums, the piano. He's a master at all of this. And his girlfriend got upset with him one day, called the cops on him. I mean, we have all the evidence for it, but because he was accused of this, no one was ever there to bring him out. No one was ever there to bail him out, no lawyer, and he's been in there now 8 years. His daughter, we've been taking care of his daughter. His daughter's been missing her daddy, and it's hard when, you know, the children are really missing their daddy. You gotta look out for your partners, you know, your friends, your loved ones, and you gotta look out for their children, but their children really be missing their daddies.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Well,
I got a couple of, let's not go into it, but
you definitely answered kind of addressed the next question, Ebunoluwa, Ebunoluwa, excuse me. How would you feel if you found that innocent people are sitting behind bars simply because they are poor and cannot afford bail? So could you touch on that a little bit more?
honestly, if they're sitting behind bars because they couldn't afford bail,
Yeah.
I'd be pissed off. I'd be livid because there's no reason someone should sit behind bars just because they can't afford to get out. There's no reason that someone should be released just because they can afford to get out. And the system is twisted. I believe, and I've seen this from firsthand. Once you go into jail, they immediately establish you, and this is a nonviolent offense. You can get established with a $50,000 bond immediately. You got to come off $5,000. I've seen to where grandmothers have to put up their homes so that they can get their grandkids out. A lot of these are grandsons up in there, 17-year-old, 19-year-old, 18-year-old kids, and they hit them with either deferred adjudication, you're either going to get 20 years off the rip, or you got to pay $50,000 to $100,000 or better. That's what it is. But they have this. They have a way that, you know, just because you don't have the money doesn't mean you should sit in jail and be the property of the state. State property. They get $200 off you a day. State makes money off you per day. If you go to state jail, they make a certain amount off you per day. If you stay in jail, if you go to prison, they make a certain amount off you each day. So where's that money going?
Yeah.
Where's that bail money going when grandmama got to put up her house and the son gets put back in jail because he violated the probation? Now mama loses her home. What happens to that home? What happens to that money? What happens to any of that money that you go to the bail office and you spend? Does it go into the community? Does it go back into diversion programs? Yeah, it pissed me off to find out that you stuck in jail because you can't pay to get out behind a non-violent offense that you was accused of, that nobody can guarantee you even did. You didn't even have a trial. You don't have anything but an accusation, a phone call. The laws pick you up. You locked up. Now you gotta pay. Pay what? What if you ain't got no money? So, yeah, it's screwed up and it's wrong.
Sounds like you're saying that the industrial prison complex is set up more of an enterprise system, almost like trading or stock, whereas the higher percentage of occupants or that you have in prison, you're saying that they get a daily rate versus maybe perhaps the money that we could be spending or investing into the community, right?
Well, look at it like this. It's all people for profit. See, if you look at both sides of the coin, one side of the coin is us. We're facing all this discrimination. We're going to jail. We're getting locked up. We got to pay all this money. We got to come off of whatever it is. But there's another flip side of the coin that says we're actually cashing in. Every time we bring another young black person in, another minority in, we make more money. We make more capital. Every time we occupy another bed, we make more capital. Every time we get another signature for deferred adjudication, we make more capital. All we're doing is capitalizing. We're getting prisoners. We're rotating them. I go to prison. I'm a prison minister. Like, I'm in prison with 300 men locked up right next to me talking about, look, this is what it is up in here. And you got to be real. You got to be a real one to be in there. So how can I never been in prison in my life, but I go into prison to see what's really going on? Look at these conditions. They keep the AC off. They make sure that only the fan is running. The prisons are so backed up from the 1970s. If I could take pictures, which they won't allow, because I've been there, they tell me, we can't allow you to take pictures. You'll see stuff that you've never seen before, and that is the conditions in which they have people living in. After you're arrested, trial, maybe, or even if you can't pay, this is the outcome. And this is starting at 17.
Wow. Thank you for that. That was great insight, Ebunoluwa. Did you know that over 40% of Americans cannot afford a $400 emergency, according to the Kinder Institute at Rice University?
No, I did not know that. Most Americans cannot afford $400 to what? To bail out?
An emergency. It's just a generic term, emergency.
Well, let me tell you what most Americans can do. Most Americans can afford $400 at Walmart. Most Americans can afford $400 of gas money to accumulate a month. Most Americans can afford a $400 electric bill. Most Americans can afford a $400 accumulation of bills, period, whether they are credit cards or everything else that you got to come off of every single month just to live. You see, they have us in a cycle of the trap. It's not them, it's us. Because most Americans can afford what they can afford. But when it comes down to the emergency funds, where they at? Because we're spending them. Most Americans spend their emergency funds every day. So it's not about what most Americans can't afford. It's about the positions that you are put in America that you can't afford to be in. You can't afford to lose your job because you got arrested because some allegation. You can't afford to change your lifestyle. You can't afford for your child to grow up 6 more years without you because you signed what they want you to sign. They don't care about your kids growing up without you. They don't care about your wife, your house, all the stuff that you lived in your life. But because you did something, you can't afford that $400 right now. You stuck in a situation in the system. Now you gotta wait. Now you gotta go through whatever God got you going through up in there. And some people don't make it out. They get beat up inside. I've witnessed murders inside. I've had the FBI talk to me personally, like we having this interview right here. The FBI have had a personal interview with me because I've witnessed murders in Harris County Jail. I'm one of the people who was in 2009 where they displaced people, where they would send us to jail, wake you up in the middle of the night, lock you up in chains, put you on a bluebird, send you to Louisiana prison, where you would have to just wait for months. I wrote grievances, to where the warden had to say, get your ass out of my prison. They put me on a bluebird the next day after 3 months and sent me back to Harris County where I was released in 1 week. So you tell me what kind of system does that, that you can't afford to be in. You don't have $400, but now you got to spend 40 days in jail.
So that's very good description and very explicit visual of kind of what people go through. What I heard you say is that for some families in America, you know, an emergency is putting food on their plate every day, and that's the $400 grocery bill to feed a family for a month. What I heard you say was that affordable housing for a mortgage or a rent for a home of a family or individual is more than a third of their salary. So that constitutes a $400 emergency every month paying the rent. And so what I hear you saying that is an apprehension of the law, being arrested and falsely arrested, or even arrested because of an allegation without probable cause, is a double jeopardy in that you're losing all that you worked so hard for, which is causing a calamitous stack of emergencies on top of you that kind of looks like a domino effect. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay. That's what it's to cause enablement. It's purely to enable you. If I can continue to feed you $10, okay, but I find some way to get back 7, I can continue to give you 10 all day long, but I've already found a way to get back 7. So how much are you really accruing? 3.
Yeah.
That's all you living off of, enough to pay your mortgage, enough to spend for daycare. And you're not even a single woman. Like, if you're a single woman, you got to pay for everything, right?
Yeah.
And if you're a single father, you have to pay for a lot of things too. So that's 3. When do you have time, or when do you have the opportunity to pay for a $400 emergency? When you're already on a limited income.
Underpaid, yeah, I get you.
Come on now.
That's a great example. Thank you.
J.O.B.
Thank you, Mr.
Just over, bro.
How would you feel? I mean, you've kind of touched on it. I actually could hear the passion in your voice, being that you've experienced this personally and as a family matter as well. How would you feel, Mr. Ebunoluwa, excuse me. Thank you for pronouncing Ebunoluwa. How would you feel if I told you that there are people behind bars right now who could not afford a $100 bail bond for a low-level offense?
I would believe you. We talking about Harris County? Especially if we talking about Harris County.
Well, that is the statistics that was revealed in Harris County. Yes.
Okay. Well, overall, I would believe that, and that's sad. It's sick and it's sad that we've been reduced so low to where it's like, I'll keep you in if you don't even have $100. Wow. I'm already making $100 off of you daily, over $100. But I'll keep you here for that $100 that you don't have. I've already made $2,000. The system.
Wow.
And that's just off one individual. I got 1 million of them coming in rotation. And no one asks, where's that money going? No one questions, where's that money going? We got prisoners out here making Tyson chicken. We got them all out here, agriculture. The whole thing is run by prison labor. Ain't none of y'all questioning that where that money's going. But you can't afford $100, we'll keep your ass in jail. And that's wrong.
You're right. Ebunoluwa, do you feel communities are safer by releasing those that can afford bail over keeping those incarcerated that may not have the funds to bond out, and why?
Now, let me question, what do you mean when you say that? To release some, like if you have the money, okay, say you're a murderer, right? And you have the money, you can get released on bail, but you're a murderer and you don't have the money, you have to stay inside? Or like, what does that mean?
It could mean that. It could definitely mean that. There are cases on the federal side, like you said, where someone is accused of committing or allegedly committing a homicide without sufficient evidence at the time.
Even like a low
or
level
even a low level offense. But in this, I'm glad you asked that question, because we do want to differentiate between low level crimes versus crimes of passion, or higher level felony charges that did result maybe in a loss of life or assault.
Well, can I say in retrospect and all in all, and the whole roundabout, cash bail is wrong.
Okay.
Period.
Got you.
I prefer, and this is not just me, preferably in cash bail. Period. If they're supposed to stay in, they're supposed to stay in until what's done needs to be done. Until the procedure is complete.
Yeah.
If they're supposed to be out, then let them out. Why are we keeping them in? Because they can't afford to come out? That's why we keeping him in? That's why little Johnny got to stay in? Because he's stupid, and because he got caught up being stupid, now can't nobody get him out? Now he gone for 3 months, he can't complete school. Now he can't complete school, now he's going to be left behind. Now what's going to happen to little Johnny? He was 16, 17, he's going to drop out of school. Now what you got? You got something running around in the streets that you created. This is called product of the environment. So come on, it's just a recycling door. And that's called recidivism. And that's what we want. We truly want recidivism. We want the recycling door because it generates money. And that's the people for profit. Like I said, the flip coin. I believe that cash bail, period, should be annihilated. Period. Y'all shouldn't be asking money to get people out. And if you are asking for money to get people out, then give us a record of where the money is going, what it's being used for. What is the process seriously when grandmama put up her house and got to put up $20,000? What happens after that $20,000? What happens after he violates probation? Does he have another chance? No. He's got to do the maximum. If he signs deferred unification and it says deferred unification, if I get out today and I commit another crime, even if it's running a red light, even if it's making any kind of wrong mistake, any wrong mistake that violates this paper, I will have to do the maximum of my time. The maximum is 18 years, 10 starting, 10 starting. So when lawyers come here talking about deferred unification, tell them to talk about the 10 years starting, period. You're signing for 10 years if you screw up, just to get out today or tomorrow. That's why I advocate for PR bonds. I mean, I'm a big PR bond advocate. If you screwed up one time, go in, you messed up, get on out, don't screw up again.
Can you explain for the viewing audience what exactly is a PR bond?
I'll explain it like this. Let me just be layman terms, okay? Because you could say exactly what it is. But when you get a PR bond, when you go into jail, okay, for the first time, you have an opportunity to get out of jail. Like, I don't know what you may have gone in for, but if it's a nonviolent crime, say you just messed up, say you was drinking and driving, say something stupid happened, and you knew better, you had weed on you, whatever it is that they're arresting you for these days, and you go in and you get a PR bond because it's your first time screwing up, they're supposed to release you within a 24 to 48 hour period. The reason why I know is because I was locked up when PR bonds came out. And they were saying, hey man, there's this new thing called PR bond, recognizance bond, man. You go in the first time, man, and they'll let you out. If this is your first time, man, I'm like, this ain't my first time. This ain't my first rodeo. But it's good that it's happening. So it's just like being there when DSL turns into online. But the thing is, PR bonds are good. They are good because they give a person an opportunity who doesn't have the money, who went in, who might not have the ability to pay that money right then and there. So I'm a big advocate for PR bonds. You go inside, if it's your first offense, you have ability to come out to deal with your situation, because you can't deal with it from inside. You can't be locked up and then wait 2 months. Your court date is backdated 2 months if you get locked up. Does anybody know that? They don't say that. They don't say, once we put you in jail today, your court date ain't gonna be for a month or two. So what do? You sign that paper. You say, man, I gotta get back to my life. You say, I gotta pay that bail money. You say, mama, come off that money. Mama, I need you to come off the house money. Yeah. And you pay the bail money, you get out. You're on papers. You have to walk a straight line for the next 7 years, minimum 7. It ain't no 7 months. It's minimum 5 to 7 years. You have to walk a straight line. And if you mess up, you got to do the maximum of your time that you signed for.
So to recap, like you said, you've heard of stories that individuals have stayed anywhere from a month or 2 in prison or in jail before their actual court case or hearing to understand fully the facts of why they were even charged for this offense.
Yeah.
And because of the length of time, the waiting, the agony, the anxiety, all the things unfolding and unraveling, such as your job, your household relationships, the contact with your children, you're saying that some people just break down and because of their weak state, they sign a plea deal, is what I hear you saying, and that basically keeps them in jail for another several months to several years. Wow. Okay. Thinking back on any experiences that you have had, which you've definitely shared some personal stories as well as other witness stories of other people, is there a time when you felt that the cash bail system was just unfair or unequal because some folks have the money to pay and to bail out even when facing the same exact charge? In what ways do you think the cash bail system, which you've already touched on, is unjust? What ways do you feel like the cash bail system is unjust?
Well, it's unjust in many ways because it wasn't intended to be just at all. Its intentions and its motives were already set aside to be just. So I'll say that when it comes to the cash bail, it's greed. And when it comes to the people, they're just a herd. And you gotta look at people like cattle, because that's how we're being looked at. We're looked at as cattle. And you brand cattle. You know, you herd cattle, they multiply. It's livestock. And when you're locked up, you become the state's livestock. When you're in the system, you become the livestock. You have to pay. This is the system of your life that you have to live. This is the unjust system. It's not whether you stay in or whether you pay to stay out. You pay. You gotta continue to pay. You gotta pay for the court dates. You gotta pay for the lawyers. You gotta pay for everybody that showed up to court. It's all gotta come out of your pocket. And guess what'll happen when you don't pay? It will say failure to
comply.
There you go. I don't have to tell you.
Or failure to appear.
Failure to appear. Failure to comply. Failure. Who's considering you a failure?
The system.
That you've been paying all of this time. So to be considered a failure by a system that you can't pay. I can't pay. I'm sorry. I can't pay. I showed up to community service. I'm sorry. I can't pay. I showed up. I did my time. I served my time. I paid all that stuff for the exemption to be expunged, and it's still on my record. I can't get a job after 10 years. It's still not off my record, and I can't pay, system. What can I do? Oh, you can't pay.
That imagery is very powerful. The imagery of being branded like cattle, almost as if your strike, your documentation of you being arrested, your charges that were brought against you, the criminal record that you now have like a scarlet letter on your back, on your chest, on your forehead, is forever with you like a brand almost. That's powerful. Thank you.
Let me tell you that every person who has been in conjunction with this system has, and that is a serial number. Did anyone ever step back and ask, why are we considered a serial number? That's why what we do at Pure Justice is so important. Because what we do is we advocate for what people don't say nothing about. Mm-hmm. Like, we speak up on that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then we go behind it and we represent it. It ain't just talking about it. It's like, we're going to go up in there and see what you're going to do in the federal court. Mm-hmm. What are y'all going to do about this stuff that we talking about that y'all know about? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's not like we bringing something to light. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We just ain't going to allow it to just stay in darkness. Mm-hmm. So forgive me for my passion in speaking over the questions.
No, you're fine.
It's just real what we do here, man. It's real because we experience it in different ways. Okay. You know.
Let me ask you this: our last question, and you could elaborate as in depth as you like. Mm-hmm. In your opinion, is the community safer by housing people in jail who are innocent or have committed misdemeanor crimes that could not afford a bail, or would it be better to invest tax dollars in community programs that improve the quality of life and address the inequities in the society that causes individuals to commit crime?
Well, let's just say this, man. We've been talking about diversion programs for a long time. And we come from the old school, like boys club, girls club. Like we come from where it was like, if you do something with the kids after school, you know, youth clubs, all that other stuff, then we're trying to divert. But have you noticed that nothing's been diverted? Mm-hmm. And if you just lock them up, you gotta let them out. But look what you're letting out. You letting out a monster. Something that went in as a kid, but now gotta come out, not even a man, but a monster, because it had to survive. Young women get it worse. When they go to jail, it's fight, fight, fight. So think about what's happened now to your whole generation that has to go through this cycle. They're mentally screwed. They come out more than trauma. They come out traumatized. So I say, man, that a change has to happen. At some point in time, it has to stop being about money. Mm. It has to stop being about money, period. Because you can't sit up there and talking and you're not walking it. Y'all gotta stop hiding behind the mask, man. Y'all gotta quit acting like this ain't going on for real until it affects your child, until it affects and comes into your front door. And then you start seeing how serious it is. Mm-hmm. But it's always been serious. We always needed diversion programs. I'm an advocate for diversion programs. Mm-hmm. But what freaking diversion program is diverting anything? Mm-hmm. Give me 5 that are doing what they say that they're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just do what you say you're supposed to do. Do what you're being paid by the city and the state and the commissioner's office is getting all these hundreds and millions of dollars to pay you to do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Assist, mm-hmm. Assess the program, provide, provision, protection, something. CPS is running amok right now with our children. Right now with our children, CPS got them so screwed up, no one's speaking about that. We have a whole nother generation of CPS kids coming out ready to commit more crimes than you ever thought of. What you gonna do about that? You're gonna let them commit the crimes. You're gonna raise them to commit the crimes so that they can come to jail and we can get fat in the pockets. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Last question, which I know that you have touched on more than once during our conversation, which I really, really appreciate your insights.
Certainly.
Ebunoluwa. How do you feel about abolishing or ending cash bail altogether?
Altogether. Eradicated.
No cash bail system.
No cash bail system.
Specifically for, let me put emphasis on individuals who are innocent in jail, or there's no evidence.
Man, I said it straight like I said it. No cash bail system.
Okay.
Period. There's no, but with it, but nothing.
Yes.
Find another way. There are different ways. Go ahead and find a task force and figure it out. Don't we pay the task force to figure stuff out? Why come I haven't heard any kind of data from task force? Figure out how we can stop cash bail. Bam. That's it.
Great, great. Well, thank you for sharing your insights and experiences, and hopefully the passion that you brought today will be shared with the viewer, and they will feel like I felt sitting here today and want to be that change that makes our community safer and fair. Thank you.